I am certain life is changeable. Life is curable. There is no situation too great that cannot be overrode, rewritten, transformed, and changed into something much, much better. And we are here with an incredible purpose, and that is to find our greatness and our happiness and our joy. I believe we're here to grow and give. I believe we're here to add value. And I believe we're here to do that through happiness and through building a life that creates more happiness for ourselves and others. Hey, guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers, and I have a special gift for you today. We're going to go over how you're going to change your life. And I come from a place in my life of incredible triumphant change. And I am certain, because of my life experience, my professional education, and my lifelong dive into personal development, that life is changeable, life is curable, that there is no situation too great that cannot be overrode, rewritten, transformed, and changed into something much, much better. And we are here with an incredible purpose, and that is to find our greatness and our happiness and our joy. And I have been a proponent of happiness for most of my life. And what I have found in different experiences is that happiness has been poo-pooed as selfish. It's been poo-pooed and talked about as sin. And that if somebody's chasing after happiness, it has been misunderstood and transformed into someone chasing material things or seeking out like hedonistic things. What I want you to really consider is that when you are happy, when you are ultimately in a place of joy, enthusiasm, happiness that comes with a sense of peace, I want you to consider what that means for the people around you. Aren't we most generous when we're happy and content? Aren't we most attentive to the needs of others? Aren't we most able to change people's lives and to give in a better way when we're coming from a place of happiness? Think about when you're frustrated, sad, or scared. Think about how much you have to offer. When we are not feeling the sense of fulfillment, of happiness inside of us, we are more focused on ourselves. When we're happy, we're less focused on ourselves. So I want you to really take that in, absorb that as truth. The next thing I want to share with you, it's very, very simple. And I'm going to read some lines from my book because I like the way it's written and I don't have it memorized, and I wrote it. So in chapter 1, I ask, who is in charge of your life? And I'm asking you that now. Who is in charge of your life? Have you ever stopped to consider who is in charge of your life? What determines where you live, who you live with, how you work, where you work, how much money you have, who you spend time with? What is the determining factors in your life for all of those things? What do you really want in your life? When I pose this to you, that is one of the hardest questions to answer. I know, because it's hard for me. I take time and think about it regularly, like probably weekly, saying like, oh my God, like, what do I want? And it transforms and changes, and you can consider it like you're building a life, that you're creating a life. So the wants and the desires transform possibly with your growth. I believe we're here to grow and give. I believe we're here to add value. And I believe we're here to do that through happiness and through building a life that creates more happiness for ourselves and others. So here, I want to just hear what I want to read more to you. Like, this is bedtime. I've seen countless good intentioned souls living their lives unhappily. And I can tell you that as owning counseling centers and being a therapist over these 30 something years, people are living in a perpetual state of unhappiness. And my book is called The Wake Up Call, because I want everybody to wake up, that we have much more power than that. Truth is your hero today. And human beings are naturally designed to run on an automated operating system, because we're automated from the time of birth, or prior to that, probably. So we are conditioned unconsciously to believe that where we are is where we belong, and that we do not deserve more than what we currently have. But that does not match with the model of growing throughout our life. Jim Rohn talks about that human beings are the only creatures who at some point in time can just decide to stop growing. But an oak tree, I love an oak tree. From the time it's a little baby, acorn or whatever that is, and it's in the ground, it spends its life growing to as high in the sky as it can, and digging down as deep as it can into the root system, and going as far as the earth and the world will let it. And as human beings, we are given that free will where we can decide, like, this is good enough. This is all I can expect. This is as good as it gets. And good is the enemy of the best. Good is just mediocrity. And my podcast and everything about my life is about saying no to mediocrity. We're not here for that. We are destined beings here for greatness and spazzow and wildly wonderful experiences. If you just look at the earth, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, look around us, it's majestic. God created a world of majesty. What on earth have we believed? What lie have we bought that tells us that in this wildly majestic world that has incredible order woven into it, which is cool too, it's wildly majestic and it's also incredibly ordered? What does that teach us about who we're meant to be? I was searching and searching, as I have throughout many times in my life. God, what is the reason that I'm here? What is my purpose? Now, meanwhile, I have counseling centers. I'm successful. I have children. I'm having a good life. And people would say, well, you can see your purpose, right? I've written a book. I have a podcast. No, I'm always searching. God, what is my true purpose? And I heard this beautiful voice. It was just this knowing. And it just brought me to weep in tears. And the purpose is, Alison, your purpose here is to know your lovability. And I'm like, wait, what? That's it? Just to know my lovability? And then the next sentence was, and to show other people their lovability. That's it. And I walked away from that godly encounter thinking, I know that was God. It came in such a simple form. And that's usually the way we know it's God, is that the answer comes in the most simple form, but it's profound. And if you take a moment and you allow it to digest, you hear the truth. So I'm like, okay, so if I know my lovability, truly know it, and I experience it, and then because I can only give what I have. So if I get that, and I believe that on days I have it, some days I don't. So it's a process. So when I have that, I'm able to give it. So giving other people a glimpse, a real look at their value, at their lovability, that we're here to be loved and we're here to love. And love is the greatest force on earth. What I have found And that's why I love Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And I have not understood since I was a very small child. I had this thing about Dorothy. I had pictures of the different characters in the Wizard of Oz, like hanging in my room, and even in in my 20s or whatever. I just loved them all. And what I discovered, and this is the way God is, I discovered that it's because we all have the power within us, and we've had it all along. And if you don't know the story of the Wizard of Oz because you're too young or whatever, I want you to go and look at it, because the message is incredible. Dorothy is searching, all over for her home, and I think home is, like our purpose, where we belong. But, there's so many different analogies to home, and she's desperate to find it. And she goes through all these, scary experiences and makes friends along the way. And it's just incredible. But what happens is that she finds out at the very end of the movie that she had the power within her all along. And she clicks her heels and she says, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And the beauty of it. And when she gets back to her home, with her family, she's like, oh, it's been here all along. Liony or whatever, the people of courage, the experience of intelligence, the experience of love and a heart were all right in front of her, but she didn't see it. And I think that if we can keep our head, heart, feet, and all in the same spot, and we can take charge of our lives and understand, I think one of our biggest problems is we do not know the actual mechanisms of our operating system, which is our body, it's our biology, and we are living within this machine that is determining a lot of outcomes for us. So when we can understand the machine and how to master that, to understand that we are in charge of our mind, that our mind, our brain, and our chemistry needs to not be in charge of us, that when we start to see that we have the power to direct our thoughts and direct our feelings, and which then direct our beliefs and our actions, and then the outcomes of our life. If we learn to do that, we've taken back the reins, and we're in a purpose to create. And I believe all of us have been brought here as creators because we can. If you look at what all of us are doing when we're working, when we're living, everything we're doing is an attempt to create something, to create money, to create, to do our daughter's hair. We're creating. And there are two creations, and one is always lost because the majority of the world is not taught. And that is my job to teach the world of your magnificence, and that we have a power that's greater than what we know. And the power of thought has the power to move mountains. It has the power to create the life that you want, and that you are not a victim of the world you see. We are creating holograms in our body, in our mind, and in our operating system of things that we're thinking about. And these things are brought into fruition through thought. Thought creates belief. We want to remember that what we think about, we're beginning a creative process in. It may sound silly to you because it's so natural for us to think of it this way. But when I look outside in my backyard, there wasn't a pool there, and there wasn't arborvitaes, and there wasn't a basketball court. I thought about it, and then I did the actions to create that. But the thinking was the beginning process, the beginning creative process to make these things come to pass. What I want to say to you, and this is not woo-woo, this is science, is that 95,000 thoughts that we think a day, 91% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday, creating the same outcomes as yesterday. Our thoughts are electrical impulses that are on a loop, that are running over and over again. We only have a small amount, and I don't want to put it that way. I don't like that I said we only have. We have a percentage of ability of thoughts that we can use to create new things. However, those new thoughts are thoughts that we haven't thought yet. We're creating those thoughts. So I have always been, and I think this is part of my purpose on this earth, is to create thoughts out of things that never existed in my life. And I've been doing it my whole life. And what I've watched over these very many years that I've lived is that the thoughts that I create that I haven't thought of before, the imaginings of my mind, the great imagination of a child to create things in their mind is how you get those things. I remember being at a church because I grew up in the church and I grew my children up in the church and I homeschooled. And I remember someone in this kind of quote unquote humble state going, I'm just asking God for a car. I was very young at that time. And they're like, I'm just begging God for a car. And I'm thinking, all right, they're begging. And then I'm thinking, oh, okay, like what kind of car are you asking for? And they're like, I don't want anything special. I don't care how old it is. I just want to make sure it can get me from A to B. And that, it doesn't have to be anything that I really like. It's just, I just want it, for transportation. And I said to them, I was very young, and I said, hey, I'm thinking if you're asking, why not ask for something you really like? Why not ask for something that is new, that, you can count on, that, will be able to bring you where you want to go in an easy way? Like, what about that? And they looked at me like I was crazy. I have always thought like that. Like, think about it this way. Beggars plead. Servants ask, children command. If we are children, if we are made with a purpose, if we are fearlessly and wonderfully made, if we are the magnificent creations that we actually are, and we're not thinking about that we are, and we should be thinking about it. Think about this body that we're walking around in. It makes no sense that it's even running. Come on, people, this is a miracle. If we are children, what would make us think that we have to play small and limit ourselves? Look at the magnificence of this earth. And we are taught to believe that if we have great things, other people can't. It's a lie. The more I have, the more I can give you. The more I believe, the more I can help you believe. The more I can move around the earth, the more I can do things to make a better earth. Don't we want the beautiful things that can help other people to be in the hands of people who want to help other people? It only makes sense. So back to bedtime reading story here. I'm going back on here. We are conditioned unconsciously to believe that where we are is where we belong, that we do not deserve anything more than what we currently have, or worse yet, we do not even deserve what we already have. A lot of people believe that. Most of us learn to accept our current circumstances as our destiny. It is my great honor to introduce you to the power that resides in you. You have a superpower, my friend. Whoever is listening, it's like I'm in your kitchen talking to you personally. You have a superpower that allows you to take back the reins of your life and rewrite your life's story. We're writing it every day. We are not the victims of the world we see because we're the ones creating it. If we understood that we're not a victim of Tom, Dick, and Harry, and we're not a victim of the job we had, and we're not a victim of the government, of all the powers that be, that we're a victim of ourselves. And that because being a victim of yourself is really cool, because then you have the power to change it. So here we go. It is my greatest hope that you will take this seriously and do the simple acts described here to have a life beyond your wildest dreams. Now, this is not a shameless plug of my book, but it does help because this book is damn badass, I do have to say. If I didn't write it myself, I don't know. I mean, and I'm not humble about it anymore because, like I said, it's not cool to leave the gifts that you have in your house. It's not fair. It's not fair to others. We need to proclaim our rarity. Okay, from the time we are born, and throughout our lives, we are collecting data through our five senses. Think about it. That data is the slowest form of information. It is all dumbed down reality. We are not able to process all the information that comes into our brain. So it is a very limited source of information that we are relying our entire lives on and creating our lives on, instead of taking thought that cannot be seen, because wave, which is the unseen, it's all the frequencies in the air. We all know that there is, that the unseen is real. If you look at electricity, you can see that that electricity is not seen, but it's real. Energy is real. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It is a power around us, and we can tap into the different energy around us in order to raise our vibration, raise our perspective, create into new things. Our thoughts move faster than the speed of light. That means that they have more creative power than our struggling, moving physical things. Physical things, this mouse, everything, this microphone, all of these things are the slowest form of vibration, and they're the slowest moving energy. Okay, so what I want you to understand is our bodies collect data without ceasing, right? Constantly information is being collected. The synaptic connections that are made by the meaning we have attached to this data, to the things that we're getting. We are collecting data, placing meaning on it because it needs to be categorized in our brain, and we place meaning on it, and then it silently controls your choices. It is the dictator of our thoughts, our feelings, and our overall state of being. Wouldn't you agree that something that has that much influence over us is worthy of deliberate attention? Our thoughts, it is the biggest miss of our lives if we do not take deliberate action over our thoughts. It is something that is criminal, that we have not been taught this in school. It is something that is literally unfair. So my mission, one of my many missions, is to get this information to as many people as possible, especially young people, because we are taught that seeing is believing, and that's bullshit. Believing creates seeing. What you see is tainted and controlled by your perception of it. And I promise you that. I am able to change the perception of things by the way I view it, and so are you. Hey, guys, how are you? I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book, and then I realized, how is that right, to keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage, and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book, and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity, or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first, and I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. Each subtle nuance that we experience and will experience throughout our entire lifetime must be categorized into something manageable and understood by your brain. Our reticular activating system, which is a small filter within our brain, screens out all this information, ensuring that our focus remains on the data that supports what is already programmed in there. So from the time you were 0 to 7 years old, we are all in a theta brainwave. We are collecting data from our parents, from our caretakers, from the schools we're in, from the trauma we experience, from all the different things that are happening, and we create belief systems. And then all the thoughts and all the data that comes to us throughout the rest of our lives is filtered either into that same system that is supporting possibly that we're not good enough, possibly that we're ugly, possibly that, some kid told us that our nose was big. So anything that doesn't support that is rejected. Any thought that doesn't support the belief systems that are already there are turned away. So that's why when someone tells you you're beautiful or someone tells you that you're handsome, you immediately, if you don't know that, if you don't believe it, you immediately recoil. You don't believe them. When people would tell me I was beautiful when I was younger, I didn't believe them. I thought they were just, trying to be nice to me. Very often I think that now too. Sometimes I think when people say, oh, that's so cute, I think they're just saying that because I'm old. But anyhow, my point is that we have to be aware of the way our body works, our operating system, and override it. So I think of things like being a wise observer. Become aware, and because awareness is the thing that helps us transcend all the experiences in our body, all the psychic pain. If you can come outside of yourself and be a wise observer as to the pain you're experiencing and the reaction that you're having, and go inward and say, what is this resonating with? What is this telling me about what's stored in my body so I can reframe it, realign it, create new thoughts, create new belief systems so that I don't have that type of reaction anymore. I can promise you that any reactions you're having in your life to people, places, and things, any conflict that you're having, you have power over internally. And most of these things are there for us, especially if you see patterns. If you see something happening over and over and over again, what I do is I say to myself, oh my God, I recognize this feeling. And instead of saying, like we are taught to say, oh my God, it never ends. Oh, geez, people are just dumb, or all these ridiculous statements like, you know what, just never gets easier. Life is hard. Oh my goodness, you know what? I don't know. It's just me. It's my life. This stuff just always happens to me. It's bullshit. It's not true. You want to know what is true? What's true is that that's an established belief system. And when something happens, if you do not step back and say, this is a very familiar feeling. This feeling is, wow, I feel taken advantage of. I hear that a lot from clients and from different people. Wow, I feel taken advantage of. Another thing I hear often is, you know what, I just don't fit in. Another one is, I'm just not like them. I'm just not good enough. Or, yeah, they can do it, but I can't. I hear things like, when people are like, oh, you know what? You really can't hire good people because blah, 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 blah. Everybody I hire is just no good help anymore. Well, is it possible that that's not true? Is it possible that, yeah, if you look at society, maybe there's a lot of people who wouldn't fit as an employee to you, or that's possible, of course, and you may have a high standard, which is cool. I have that too. But think about it. If you keep finding in your life relationships that are emotionally unavailable, employees or coworkers who are incompetent, you think that people aren't listening to you, but it's a theme. What's the common denominator? Ask yourself the question, when did this start? How long have I repeatedly felt this feeling? And instead of saying, oh, This is just my life. You guys, you have to stop doing that. It's not true. It's a life you're creating. So I asked myself the question, oh, wait a minute. Oh, shoot. Wow. I felt this feeling a lot of times before. And you know what? Who is the number one person in my life that I originally felt this feeling with? So I can tell you tons of stories of different original feelings that have produced crap in my later life. An original feeling was never feeling taken care of, or I could trust the people who were in charge of me. So having that, and then needing people that you could trust to get things done, it's a natural thing to go back to that feeling, go, oh my God, I can't trust anybody to, have my back, because that was my life. So either I will call people in my life like that, right? Who I can't trust to have my back, or I will perceive things as I'm a victim of that. Instead, you need to go inward and say, okay, that was a reality. That was an experience you were having as a little girl. And it was really, really like, I don't even know that I thought it was, shitty when I was a kid. I just thought that's what it was, and that I had to be independent and on top of things and get things done, because really there was no one really to trust. And I think that can get you pretty far in life, because, when you got to count on someone and you're going to do the damn good job, then you have the person in your back pocket, and that's you. But it's also, for a child, a very, very scary feeling. And what I want you to understand is that a lot of people we see in Lager counseling services have something we call ACOA issues, and it's adult children of alcoholics, but it's not just children who were grown up by alcoholics or drug addicts. It can be children who just had emotionally immature parents. It could be people who had parents who were had a mental illness, parents who did not take care of them. And when you have that, you can become a parentified child. And that is something that produces a sense of core shame. It produces a core belief that you're just not as special as anyone else, and you have to do all the work to make sure your life is okay. And what we find, and what I find in marriage counseling, or really in any situation with a human being who's not doing well, who feels that way, when they feel like they can't count on anyone, what I do find is that those people, if they can see it and they say, get in touch with that really vulnerable part of themselves, and they're a little girl or a little boy, and say, God, that was scary. God, I could just never let go. God, I could just never exhale, breathe, and just know there was someone there who I could count on. And getting in touch with that part of yourself and feeling it hurts. I can tell you, because right now I feel like crying, because it hurts. Because the ultimate feeling is when you are a child who did not have a parent who it felt like could take care of you or would do the things that other parents did, ultimately, you are robbed of the opportunity to be a daughter or a son. And those experiences of being a daughter is the experience of feeling special, of feeling a sense of being entitled, but not an entitlement like we're describing in our society today, like, you owe me anything, but just to be able to breathe back and know that you have someone who loves and cares for you, a foundational structure that communicates worth, and you're special, and all of the things that little girls so much need. And for a little boy, to know that he can count on his dad to be strong, and his dad to treat his mom well, and his dad to take care of, things that are scary. I love Henry Amar's, friend of mine, Taryn and Henry. And Henry said on my podcast, this one thing I just loved. He said, men, true masculine energy is a man not being a lion. It's a man protecting women and children from the lion. And when a little boy doesn't know that he has someone there, or a little girl doesn't know that they have someone there to protect them from the lion, a little boy particularly feels just inside that it's his job, and he knows it's too big for him. So he immediately feels incompetent. And to the many, many people, and I'm tagging so many different kinds of things in this podcast, but to women of domestic violence or children who have grown up with parents or fathers who were physically abusive to the mother, or who were scary and yelling and frightening. The thing that happens, particularly to a boy child, is that everything in them feels the desperate call inside to protect their mother. It's in them. It's just built inside of them. They are the ones to protect a woman from a lion or anyone from a lion. So it's built in their system. So now their very person who's supposed to protect them isn't. And the person who's supposed to love their mom and them and bring peace to the home because of their strength is the scary one. So now, in order to protect a mother, you have to betray your father, who you're probably afraid of, and probably, you definitely, if you're a little boy, can't win. So there's this incredible turmoil for a young little boy that grows into a young man of being terrified of the man who's supposed to be teaching them how to protect, and then guilty and shamed that they can't stop or protect their mother. And then they have to figure out a way to bring this into adulthood, to bring it into marriage, to bring it into fatherhood. And it is incredible challenge for them. Many men become abusers only because they need to identify with the aggressor in order to manage their own fear. And they're also taught, we are, children are wet cement. Not all men do that. I want to make that very clear. A lot of men will just be fighting to prove their protection of a woman or their strength, because they feel so small. There's so many variations of the way that it can turn out, but none of them are the way it's supposed to be. And for a little girl, I had a program called My Mother, My Mirror, My Father, My Worth. And when we have, for a little girl, our father is our very first non-sexual, better be non-sexual date. And that's the person who indicates who we are as a woman, who we will be as a woman, how a man treats a woman, how valuable a woman is in a man's eyes, how a woman is treated, right? And that is a baseline. And then a young girl, their mother is their mirror. So when they look in that mirror, the mirror either reflects back respect and honor and admiration. When you look at your mom and you feel proud of her and you feel like she's kind and nice, and you see yourself. When you see a mom, one of the greatest indicators of a low self-esteem in a young girl is their mother's self-esteem. So when the mother is looking in her own physical mirror and, criticizing herself or being kind of like slumped down and mousy and, afraid, the daughter, sees themselves that way. One of the things that happens in a child's life, and I kind of segued into this, but this is really valuable information for everyone to have, is that we do something called undoing. So what we will do is, when our parent is behaving or living in a way that feels really not good to us, or a way that we don't want to be, we will live our lives in a fashion of undoing. So our lives will be undoing our mom or our dad's life. One of the things that I've done to undo my mom, I can tell you about, is that my mom never wore makeup. She never wore a bra. She never did anything really to make herself look beautiful. And she was a beautiful woman. And if anyone ever commented on my looks, they would say, "Oh my gosh, she has beautiful eyes," or "Your daughter is so beautiful." My mother would always say, "Yes, but that's not, what makes her. She's a beautiful person on the inside." So my mother was always like negating, like being feminine or beautiful or all these things. And she would communicate to me like anything external, like clothing or anything, was seen as superficial. And so I stuck it to her. and became the most glamorous that I could ever be. Like, I love clothes, I love fashion, but I also do believe that it's an art form. And it's something that I had to learn. And it took a lot of years to learn not to be ashamed of being feminine, of being beautiful, of caring about the way I look. So what a lot of what I've done is I've undone my mom. I also spent a lot of time, my parents were high level intellects. And what I would do is I acted dumb for the majority of my life. I got a 4.0 in college. I'm smart as a whip. I have a very high IQ. I'm like up on there on that genius level. I can say that now. But throughout my life, I was, I thought intellectual people were assholes, honestly, because they would debate things. They were always talking about, always felt that they were like, they always around being around intellectual people, like my parents' friends and stuff. It always felt like anything you said wasn't smart, but they were going to teach you. So there's this thing that we do is that we are in this state of reaction where we're constantly changing. We're constantly being something in reaction to others instead of building into the person that we actually are. And I want to encourage you to take the time to stop, to look at your thoughts, and to believe in yourself. I'm going to go into just a little bit more of story time, but for the purposes of this very long podcast, it says here, if you are reading this book, you are somewhat interested in breaking the pattern of mediocrity in some or all of the areas of your life. Mediocrity lulls us into being invisible to ourselves. You understand that? Did you hear that? What I ask of you guys as a precursor to your greatness is that you be willing to be present, to be willing to see the truth without judgment in yourself. I ask people to be awake and aware in the now without judgment, to be able to see what's happening inside of them. We are born into a family, and this is our very first understanding of this world. And how we become conformed to this family has to do with the meaning we attach to the experiences we have. In the context of this small family unit, our neurological network is created. This is where our belief system is born and continues to grow and is maintained throughout our lives. So what I'm asking you to do through this podcast, through this book, is I want you to consider thinking outside of your feelings. You know, what is Dr. Joe says? You want to think greater than you feel. And you want to consider how often you are, if you're arguing with another person, you're probably, and if you're yelling at one another, you're probably not in your adult. You're probably not in the part of you that is creating a new life. You're probably just reliving an old pattern. So my encouragement to you, and I'm going to see if I can encourage you to come back and do this thing with me where we go over the 7 or 8 areas of your life and you do a whole life audit. That's one of the things I do in my book. We go over financially, emotionally, spiritually, leisurely, socially, relationally, vocationally, all the different basic snapshots of your life. And if you right now took a moment and you thought about just quick, snap, okay, if you looked in your bank account, what is the message? If you looked in your relationships, romantic relationships, what's the message? What does it say about your belief? If you look at your social life with friends and family, what does that say? What we're looking at when you get that snapshot is you're getting a mirror image, a reflection back to yourself, what you believe about those areas of your life. So if you're in debt and you've lived your whole life in debt, that is a belief system that you have, and you don't really need to judge anything about it. Just know it. Know what you already believe about money. Either money's too hard to get, or once you get it, it's gone, or you're always owing somebody something because you're guilty about something because we feel like we're not good enough. So we owe. And debt is just another word for never being there, always owing people. something. Okay. So what you want to look at is all these different areas and ask yourself, what is my social life? Tell me about what I believe about myself. What is my vocation? Tell me about what I believe about myself. What is my romantic life? Tell me what I believe about myself. What does my leisure life, my fun, my sense of vibrance, tell me about what I believe? What is my physical body? Right now, snapshot, tell you what you believe about yourself. And all of those things, once you know that, then the next step is to go through the building a different belief. So I'm going to stop here with that. And I want to thank you for listening today. It is my honor to be with you guys. I do have to ask, and I ask hard, that you guys like, share, go on YouTube for me, please. This is a top 3% globally podcast, yet I have like 300 followers on YouTube because I don't really focus on YouTube much. It's always, my podcast is always in there, but I really could use like some subscribers, a lot of subscribers to come on there. I mean, I have enough listeners, but they're not really going to YouTube. So or subscribing. I ask that you do that you like, you share, you comment, because it helps me to continue to do the podcast. I don't advertise. I don't monetize this podcast at all. It's all because I want to pass on this life-changing data. That's all. So I'm asking you to do that. I also would ask that you would please share this episode or any of my episodes with people that you know it would help, that would appreciate it, and that would also want to share it with someone else who would also be helped and would appreciate it and would share with someone else who appreciates it and is helped by it, and so on and so on. Because my mission before I hit my grave is to ensure that I help as many people as I can. I'm not looking for money for it. I'm asking you that the only thing I want to charge is that if you get something, if it touches your heart, or if you learn something that will literally change you, please share it. Because I believe that we can't really, once you have something, if you don't give it away, you can't keep it. So, I always say that, you can't keep what you got unless you give it away. So I do ask that anything you do get, that you give away. And I appreciate it. And I am asking for followers because I could use them. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you at our next meeting. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe, if you could, to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.